Hi everyone, my name is Laurie and welcome to today's AFTV FANZONE, the show that gives the fans the opportunity to come online and air their views and have their say. All you got to do is download the AFTV app and you can get access to the show. But without any further ado, let me first introduce my guest, none other than Mr. AFTV himself, Robbie in the building. What's going on, bro?
I'm good, man. I'm good. You know, let me take these headphones off for 1 minute. I'm good. Listen, what a fantastic performance by Arsenal last night. 5-0 up at half-time in a game that we had. 5.
I was 4. All right, yeah.
Scored one in the second half,
after half hour, yeah.
5-0 up in the first half, right? In a game that, going into that game, we knew we had to get at least a draw to top the group.
Yeah.
Right, or to qualify, right? Win the game, we top the group. It's absolutely emphatic. I mean, what a brilliant performance by the team. And I've got to say, man, we've walked this group, haven't we? We've walked it. I mean, I was looking at it last night. I'm like, how did we lose to Lons?
Well, I was asking myself a similar question. I mean,
you know what? I was at the game, and I remember there was an unbelievable atmosphere over in Lons. Their fans were really up for it. The team was really up for it. It was their first game back in the Champions League. They just kind of rode the wave.
Yeah.
It's one of them. We missed a lot of chances in the game. But last night, we were emphatic. And I think the thing is, what I've noticed in the Champions League, and we've been discussing this all day, is that a lot of teams come and they try to attack Arsenal. You know what I mean? They're on the front foot. They try to attack us. In the Premier League, teams are not really doing that. But they came high line, you know, trying to attack us.
Why do you say that in the previous game when we played Sevilla at home? They were awful. They didn't even.
They were awful, but they
didn't even have a shot on goal until.
Yeah, I know, but again, they were just pegged back. That's why they
didn't try to attack us, though, did they?
I think they weren't playing ultra defensive though. Excuse me. I think they were trying to attack us, but we just pinned them back.
I must admit, watching that game and watching the way the whole group has transpired. Remember when the names came out the hat, a lot of people looked at that draw as slightly favourable towards Arsenal, but a lot of people said, look, you still got to play the games and you got to be diligent, which is, you know, the right way to approach it. But I've got to say, Arsenal looked by far the best team in that group.
Yeah, by a mile.
They walked it.
By a mile. And
so they actually made it look like an easy group.
We made it look like an easy group, and I know a lot of people look on it and say, listen, let's be real, it's an easier group than most teams got here. You look at Newcastle's group. Right, I mean, where they play PSG, AC Milan, Borussia Dortmund. That's a group of death, right? But as I was pointing out to some Newcastle fans, that's because, you know, your coefficient in this competition is very low. We were the second favourites in this group. Remember, you know, remember Sevilla were the top seeded team.
Yeah, they got good pedigree.
Yeah, we were the second seeded team. Look at Man United, how they're struggling. Yeah. That's not a hard group. Manchester United's group, Bayern Munich, yes. You look at that and you say, that's, you know, to surpass Bayern Munich.
Yeah, I mean, Bayern Munich are potential.
Yeah, they're potentially one of the teams that can win it. But come on, Galatasaray, Sevilla, who in Europe have got a bigger pedigree. It's Sevilla, isn't it? Yeah. And PSV or FC Copenhagen. PSV is a much higher ranked team.
Well, PSV have done well against us in recent competition.
Exactly, but PSV are a much higher ranked team than Copenhagen, aren't they?
Yeah, they are.
Right?
Yeah.
So, you know what I mean? It's all right just saying easy group and that, but we've made, like you said, we've made it look easy.
Man United should be doing much better.
United have been, you look at their game last night, I mean, their goalkeeper. So we've been discussing goalkeepers on AFTV. I mean, jeez,
what would United give for one of our two keepers at the moment?
You know what I mean? But we walked the group. We walked it.
The whole Champions League thing, it was what I liked about that as well is the way that Arsenal just killed the game off early and put everything to bed. And if you look at it, where we are now, we're in a very good place. So we're top of the Premier League as we speak. We're going to finish the Champions League group in pole position. So things are looking rosy.
Yeah, listen, at the moment we're doing good. We're not playing our scintillating best in the Premier League, but I think a lot of that's to do with the fact that, you know, we're coming up against teams that make it really difficult for us, like Brentford. But the thing that we are doing well is that we're winning games, and
exactly.
We're not losing games. You know what I mean? And I think one of the things that I've noticed about Arsenal this season, what I'm liking, is that we've got a very mean defence.
Yeah.
You know, I was making the point earlier on today that, you know, we're almost a bit like what Man City did last year with our back line. Manchester City last year basically had 4 centre backs as their defenders. So they had what would you have? You'd have Ake on the left. He's really a centre back, isn't he? He's not really a left back.
At Bournemouth,
but he's a centre back. Ake, right back. You've got what's his name? Tottenham guy. Slipped my mind now, man. Tottenham, England. You former Tottenham, England. Right back. Oh my God, what's happening to me?
No, you're not thinking of Trippier, are you?
No, Man City.
They got Stones through the middle.
They had Stones, they had Diaz, they had left back, they had Ake. They could also have a Kanji in there, and they had someone tell me in the comments, please. My mind's gone blank.
Oh, my mind's gone blank as well.
Walker.
Oh, sorry, yeah.
Oh my God.
Kyle Walker, yeah.
Kyle Walker, right?
Yeah.
So a lot of time, if you took Kyle Walker out of it, because I guess he's a normal right back, but he didn't play a lot all the time, innit? He didn't come until sort of later on. So they literally sometimes had 4 centre-backs across the back line. This season, they've had like Gvardiol in there and that. So really solid. Look at kind of what Arsenal have done. It's a similar thing. They've got Ben White, who was really a centre-back, who's playing at right back. Yeah. Tomiyasu's been playing the left-back position in the big games over Zinchenko. He's really a centre-back.
Yeah, he can play centre-back.
He can play right back, but he can be a centre-back. And then you've got Saliba, and you've got Gabriel. That's 4 really solid players. And then sitting just in front of them, you got Declan Rice, who started off his career as a centre-back. So you've got 4 really defensive-minded players who can get forward, who can attack, who are great passers of the ball, but they're very defensive-minded players.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the reasons why, teams are finding it really difficult to score against Arsenal this season. I mean, we haven't conceded a lot of goals.
I think they're conceding the least.
Yeah, in the Champions League at home, we haven't conceded a goal.
Yeah.
So...
and that centre-back pairing looks impregnable.
Yeah. The only slight worry is you look on it, you say, if one of them goes down, then what's to come underneath
we've got
that?
Kivior in there. He can do a good job.
Kivior, and then also, you can switch Ben White into centre-back. You can switch, Tomiyasu into centre-back positions as well. You could bring back in Zinchenko. So, but I think the way we're defending this season is much, much better. Especially away from home. That's why we've been getting so many 1-0 wins away from home in the league, etc.
Well, when people bring up this whole fluidity and we're not looking as attackingly, yet the prowess attacking is not as great as it was last year, I always say to people, look, for one, the team is evolving. And number 2, if you look at any team that goes on to win the league, it's always built off the back of a really good defence. And at the moment, we're showing that. So I'm quite confident moving forward, man, that it's going to be a successful season.
Yeah, me too. And I think we're going to be, definitely challenging for the league this season. I think there's 3 teams. I really do. I think it's Man City, Liverpool, Arsenal. I really think it is those 3. I said right at the start of the season, before a ball was kicked, that I feel it's going to be those 3 teams that were challenging. And you can see that they're the 3 best teams at the moment.
Yeah.
But it's a long way to go, as we know.
And the strength from the Premier League dictates that teams are going to drop points. So, for example, we dropped points to Newcastle. Man City have dropped points to us and to Wolves, who incidentally we play this weekend. So, and Liverpool have dropped points as well. So, listen, it's all there to fight for.
It's all there to fight for, and I just feel that we're well equipped. It's going to depend on a lot of factors. You know what I mean? It's about keeping players injury-free as possible, because when everybody's fit, we ain't half got some squad. I'll tell you, I was looking at it the other day and saying to myself, if everybody was fit, Timber, Partey, if everybody was fit, right, and Mikel Arteta had everyone to choose for, what would be his starting 11?
The only thing I would say about that is I'm sure a few other teams will say the same thing. I'm sure Tottenham will say the same thing.
Yeah, but I mean, if everybody's fit...
even City, they're missing De Bruyne. So
if every Tottenham player's fit and every Arsenal player's fit, we've got a much better squad than them. If every, all the teams... the only teams I think is those 2 that I mentioned. They're the only teams that can rival us, I feel, player for player.
They're the most immediate
Obviously, City
threats.
are the best.
What I would say is we do have to be cognizant of the other teams in the league, because the Premier League is such that every team on their day is capable of giving you a really hard game.
I'll tell you the other thing. I'll tell you the other thing about the Premier League this year, which makes it so difficult, right? Is that you've also got a lot of very serious teams. So normally you go away from home. If you go into City, difficult day. Likelihoods of winning quite low. Same at Liverpool, right? This is before any balls kicked, right? Same at Liverpool. And then you got to throw Man United into that. It's always been really, really difficult to go, even though they've been quite poor at home this year, but still always a difficult place. Those three big places really, and then obviously for us, local derby, Tottenham, always a really, really tough place. So you look at those 4 games, those are probably 4 games every season that you go into thinking, boy. But now you can add some more into that.
You could go right down the league.
Well, yeah, I think going right down the league, you say difficult game, but if we're on it, we should win. But there's some other teams now that you can add into that. You can put Aston Villa in that.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
When you go away to Aston Villa, right, the way in which they perform at home, that now has come into, that joins the category of those other games that I just told you about. Newcastle away is also in that category as well. So you've got 6 games now against those 6 teams that and normally you'd have Chelsea in that as well. Yeah. You'd have Chelsea in that. I know Chelsea have been...
No, but Chelsea on their day are still...
I think Chelsea are still in that.
We struggled there this season.
I think Chelsea are still in that because even though they've struggled against, probably the lesser teams in the league, that's because those lesser teams have deployed a low block. But teams that have gone there to try and take them on, like we did, like Manchester City did, they're much, much better against. So,
well, Chelsea have taken points off both us and Liverpool this season.
So that's 8 places, right, that I've just named out there, right, that you class as those are very touch and go, that you're going to go there and get anything out of those games, right? That's a lot of games.
No, it's a serious thing, man. It's shark-infested waters. But I digress. I'd love to be able to talk about the Premier League for the whole show, but we do have a subject title. Those of you who are tuning in, you can see it there. Actually, you can't see it there because it's how good have Arsenal been in the Champions League. But the main subject that we're going to talk about today on FANZONE is following the announcement, I think it was this Tuesday, that the International Football Association Board, which is basically football's major rule-making body, they've announced that sin bins will be trialled at the higher levels of the game following a sin bin experiment at grassroots level, which apparently proved to be very successful. They now want to roll it out to the higher echelons of the game. And basically, sin bins, if you're unaware, is what you might, a simple term would be temporary dismissals of 10 minutes for which referees will give to players who have erred for things like dissent and tactical fouls and stuff like that. And it will involve the player getting this temporary dismissal for 10 minutes. Those of you who watch rugby will see that sin bins is a big part of rugby, and I'm a big rugby fan. You like your rugby as well, innit? So, and it does, I've got to admit, it does work there. So they're looking to roll this out, and as usual, whenever there's an announcement of this sort, there's a massive debate as to the pros and cons, and should we embrace the change? And then there's the other people out there, the naysayers, who, let's face it, are pretty resistant to change, and which football does have, for right and wrong reasons, you know what I mean? So it's a very interesting debate in my view. I've got to put my cards on the table. I'm in favour of it, but I'd love to hear what you guys have got to say. Before that, let's turn to the big man there, to my
Do you know what, right? This sin bin thing, I'm mixed on it, right? So on the one aspect, I am a fan of it because I think there's certain things that if you bought it in for, it might help, right? So for instance, we've all heard of the term, let's take one for the team, right? So, a player's running through on goal, or a player's gotten away from a defender, going to start an attack, and one of the players on the team deliberately hauls him back and takes a yellow card, and that's it. All you get is a yellow card, right? That's an offence that I think you could be put in a sin.
It's basically cheating, really.
It is basically cheating. We say take one for the team. We say one technical professional foul. You've taken one for the team, So for that, I think it could work. For when players are diving and simulating things, I think that's an obvious one where someone dives, is shown that they dive, they get sent into the sin bin. For instance, like I saw an incident on Monday in the Wolves game where a Wolves player it wasn't really a headbutt, the player sort of
I saw
in the
that,
Fulham
right,
game.
yeah.
He barely touched his nose. To be fair to, he was Max Kilman, the Wolves player. He could have fallen down on the ground, rolled around, and maybe that Fulham player would have got sent off. But he didn't. He just sort of held his face like that. He had been touched. It's not enough for me for that to be a red card, but for me, it's still violent conduct in a way that would warrant a sin bin.
Yeah.
So in the one aspect, I think it's a good thing, but then in the problem I have is who's going to implement it. These referees, if they're going to get involved in it, then maybe it's not a good idea because they're so inconsistent. It means that somebody will commit, maybe that sort of cynical take it for the team foul in one game and nothing happens, and then in the next game he gets sin binned. All that happens throughout the game.
But is it
I
right?
cannot trust these referees. I cannot trust these referees with what I've seen this season. I mean, look at that one during the week at Newcastle with that ridiculous handball decision where the referee sent to the screen, sees it, and still gives that as a penalty. Can you trust these lot to implement a sin bin on top? They don't even get the VAR. They're not getting the VAR stuff right at the moment.
My simple response to that would be, we should not let a law that might enhance or improve the game be stymied just because you don't have the confidence that the officials will get it right. Because let's face it, it's up to them to get things right.
Yeah, but they're not.
No,
they're
but
not.
That shouldn't prevent them bringing in a rule that will improve the game.
No, but I'm saying that's what worries me about it. In principle, I don't mind it. I do think things have to move on. But I worry, these referees right now, I'm telling you, I don't trust them. I don't trust them. They've been getting so many things wrong this season. And as we saw, we say Premier League, that one, that was in Europe this week, the PSG one, where the referee, the on-field referee bottled it. The VAR guy, I don't know what he was looking at.
It's a clear, poor decision. It's kind of ironic, really, because it was Newcastle playing, because obviously that was the same team.
Well, yeah.
that we played a couple of weeks ago. And when we had various complaints about the referees, I had Newcastle fans on my case saying, look, stop moaning, blah, blah, blah. And now an adverse decision has gone against them. And they're the ones seemingly moaning. But anyway, in terms of the...
I think we got some calls, Laurie.
Okay, in terms of the sin bin, I just want to say very quickly that I'm very in favour of it. I think it works well. I've seen the way it works in rugby. And I think in terms of football, I think sin bins will help to eradicate the tremendous amount of dissent that you get from footballers. I think sending them to the sin bin for 10 minutes will help to cut that out, or at least slow it down.
You say rugby, though. Remember the World Cup? Remember the World Cup final with New Zealand, right? Where one of their players, he gets sent off, was he sin bins? But that was a bit,
Listen, it's not going to be the perfect storm, but I do think sin bins will improve the game. I think it will help cut down on red cards, as we said earlier. And I'm drawn to a recent survey that accompanied the announcement of sin bins, where they said that the introduction of sin bins, they tried it out at grassroots football and they did a survey to accompany it, and they said that the sin bins reduced dissent from players to 30 up to 38%. They said that 72% of the players that were surveyed said that they wanted to continue with sin bins, and that's a fairly high number, let's be honest. 77% of managers and coaches. In fact, that number, 77% of managers and coaches, that surprised me.
It's a different game, Laurie.
No, this is football.
Yeah, I know. I said grassroots football and the Premier League, different.
Yeah, you could argue that, but even so...
I watch grassroots football every single week, 2-3 times a week, right?
Yeah, but you've got to start from somewhere.
When you've got... If the grassroots footballers could look back and they had as many cameras reviewing everything that happens throughout the game, I'm not sure if that percentage would be so high.
Well, we just got to go with what we have.
I guess they trust the referees because the decisions were made. They've got no reference point to look back on it.
But these were guys that took part in the initial...
yeah, but it's different for me.
You could say that, but 72% of players, 77% of managers and coaches, and that figure did surprise me somewhat.
Okay.
And 84% of referees.
All right, you know what, Laurie? Let's get a caller up, because we've got a caller on, and the good thing about this caller is that he's a fan of rugby, right? And he wants to give his thoughts on this whole sin bin. So let's get this.
Let's see what he's got.
How you doing? What's your name?
How are we doing?
What's your name?
Jay.
And where are you from? Where are you calling from?
Canada, Toronto.
From Canada. Thanks for coming on. You're a fan of rugby, and what's your thoughts on this idea of bringing in sin bins into football? Haven't we got enough problems with VAR without coming to add more to it now by bringing these sin bins in?
Well, I mean, thanks for having me on, first of all. But what I would say is that with rugby, it's a very different sport. So when I've watched rugby through my whole life, it's a way different sport. It's a shorter game. There's different calls to be made. But with football, for sure, I think you're adding too much for these officials to make. We've seen with VAR, they're not competent enough to be making the right choices. You know, they're not making the right decisions on the pitch. On and off the pitch, it just seems like you're giving them too many things to think about. You know, that's my view.
Yeah, okay. I hear that, and that is a reasonable point to make. However, I would counter that by saying that if you're looking to bring in rules, right, that would seemingly enhance or improve the game, we should not let the fact that there are referees out there that are not good at their jobs.
Yeah, but that's the fact. That's the fact.
Yeah, but what I was going to say is we shouldn't let that hold us back from introducing rules that I think will improve the game. That's
no, but
number one.
You can't bring it in, though, until you get that right, innit?
No, you get the
all we're going to have, right, is what we're getting now, right, which is with VAR, which is problem after problem after problem. Until these referees sort themselves out.
Would you scrap VAR?
I wouldn't scrap. I think
well,
it's too,
no.
Hold on. But with VAR, it's too late to scrap it. We've already got it. It's already in. But we've got to sort it out. We can't be bringing in things on top of it.
No, but what I'm going to say, statistics have shown, right? This is actual facts as well. Statistics have shown that decision making since VAR has been introduced has actually got better. A lot of people may be surprised to hear that. But
What
that
statistics are those?
Those are recent statistics that I've seen. I haven't got the. I can look it up.
We need the evidence. We need the evidence.
The empirical evidence. But trust me when I tell you that those experiments have been conducted, and the outcome of those statistics is that VAR has improved decision making in football.
Let's ask Jay. Jay, have you seen an improvement since VAR's come in? Do you think you've seen an improvement?
I think we've seen an improvement in stuff like offside, maybe, because offside's not so much a decision the referee can see as much as the VAR, because if it's a foul, it's more of an opinion thing. So if it's a foul, if someone thinks it's a foul or a reckless piece of play, like a yellow card would be like warranted for that, then yeah, VAR maybe has helped with certain things. But for the fouls and the handballs, I think we've seen it. We've been victim to it as Arsenal fans, and every other team has. So to answer that, I would say there's been improvement, but not fully.
So if there's, I would argue, so if there's been an improvement, then that means VAR is vindicated then, because it's been shown to improve the game. But just talking about the sin bins, I just want to bring you back to that quickly. So would you agree with me then that at the moment, the amount of dissent we get in the game and the amount of tactical fouls that teams employ, that needs to be addressed, right? Do you think that sin bins, so we acknowledge that there is a problem there. Do you think that the introduction of sin bins can, if not eradicate it, go some way to reducing that in games, where you're getting players just surrounding referees and harassing them and things like that? You're getting guys on teams that they're breaking away, goal bound. Not to say they're going to definitely score, but as soon as they make the break, you get some defender literally rugby tackling them to the ground, getting an innocuous yellow card, as Robbie says, so-called taking one for the team. I think the introduction of sin bins will help to definitely reduce that, and we'll get a better game. What's your thoughts on that?
Just finally on that, I would think while that's a good idea, is that I think the problem you might face with that is because now they're bringing up so many more, restrictions on dissent. So, talking back to the ref, taking too long to take a throw. I think what you're going to see with the sin bin thing is you're going to see suddenly 11 against 9. Now, whether they imply it so that only one player can be in the sin bin at a certain time, maybe that's possible. But if you say there's a unlimited amount of numbers of people who can be in the sin bin for a yellow card or a reckless tackle, you might see one person, let's say, get a sin bin, like at Newcastle, when everyone surrounded the ref when Havertz took out Dan Burn, you saw Longstaff get a yellow. Now, I'm not saying that's unjustified, but if he gets a yellow for that, you're then going to be putting him in the sin bin, maybe because of the severity of everything that's going on. So they have to really think about how much they're forcing this before it becomes an uneven match between both sides, whether it's us or against the big team.
All right, well, listen, thank you. Yeah. Thank you very much for your call. I really appreciate that. I think we've got another caller. We've got Ryan. How you doing, Ryan?
Yes, big up Robbie, man. Good seeing you Saturday at Brentford as well.
Yeah, no, it was good to see you at Brentford, man. It was pretty cold at Brentford, and I'll tell you what, it was even
freezing was an understatement.
Oh well, I'll tell you what, man, it was even colder last night outside the Emirates, man. And I remember, you know what, right? Last night outside the Emirates, right, I came out to interview fans, and me and Julian always sort of come down the stairs, and we can look out the window and see people waiting. I said, Julian, there's not loads of people waiting tonight. I go, maybe because of the cold weather, everybody's gone home, right? So I said, we'll get away a bit quicker today, I guess. Came out, man. Everybody was waiting inside. As soon as we come out, they all came out. Yeah. Oh, we was filmed. We didn't leave there till 12:30 last night.
Yeah, well, I remember.
No, about 12:30 midnight is when we finished doing the last fan cam last night. So many people wanted to have a say about Arsenal's performance. You know, that's the thing that makes me laugh. You know, you get these people sometimes, it's only when you lose. Right, well, listen, 12:30 at night last night, right? People wanting to have their say about a brilliant Arsenal victory.
Someone go and tell that to the clowns like Simon Jordan who like to have a go at AFTV and the fans. Yeah, tell him to go do that instead of stuck up in TalkSport towers chatting nonsense, chatting breeze.
As well, but Simon Jordan, he's a different kind of animal, man.
He's an idiot. He's a clown. But anyway, Robbie. So, right, tell us your thoughts on the sin bin thing, man. Are you for or against? Because I'm definitely for, bro.
I'm a bit mixed with this, you know, because I feel like with this sin bins conversation, it's funny. I've been having a lot of these conversations in my group chats on WhatsApp and even when I've been at work. And for me, I feel like the sin bin is a good idea to maybe have in the next season or two, but I don't think it should be implemented into the system and the game right now. We've got too many problems with VAR officials and referees right now. Honestly, Laurie, we need to, listen, you don't run before you can walk. That's the way I'll put it. And for me, we need to make sure we get to the root of these officials being incompetent and getting what about decisions wrong.
Well, let me put something to you. What about the argument for sin bins? Again, I'm very in favour. For me, it's a no-brainer. What about those people like me who say that the introduction of sin bins will actually help referees?
You know what?
It will help them in terms of not perhaps giving a red card that they're not sure about. You can send someone to the sin bin for 10 minutes and then, you know what I mean? You lessen that bit of controversy whereby you've actually sent somebody off. Yeah, listen, you have to trust them.
I was about to say, Robbie.
We have to trust them. We have to trust them, you know what I mean? Because...
You know what though, Laurie? You know what? I look at the sin bins and I know they've got it in rugby and hockey. You're starting to sound like a hockey officiant right now. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm mixed about it. For me, I'm against the sin bins right now. I don't think we should have it. I wouldn't have it right now because I think it would ruin the game right now of football. I feel like to have it in the next season or two, maybe a lot longer down the line, because I think Paul Merson must have said it 6 hours ago or so, or I think on Saturday when I was watching on Sky Sports. He went on a massive rant about it. And
I saw that.
He wasn't happy to the fact that we're trying to bring in another system when the referees and officials have too much to deal with on the pitch as it is right now. And I feel like you don't want to give them too much work because at the same time, they've got a lot of work with getting decisions wrong as it is, players diving and etc. And the only thing of why I wouldn't have it right now is because if a player was to dive, you could say that's a good thing to have it for. But then with other teams, there's so many teams not getting the rub of the green on decisions right now. On top of having this sin bin, imagine a player puts in a bad tackle and he's going in the sin bin. Yes, it wouldn't necessarily look the greatest, but we've got other things that I think that are more important right now.
I think Paul Merson, he expressed some reservations based on the aesthetics of the game. So what he was saying, I'm paraphrasing, but if I'm right, what his main concern was that he's saying that you're going to get games if there's been a sin bin, then the team that's been affected by the sin bin is basically just going to go into a low block and just try and kill the game. And I think I saw something from John Terry where he said that he was of a similar view. But then you've got alternative views. People like Jamie Carragher, apparently, he's come out and said that he's for sin bins.
He's for it.
And me personally, right, Ryan, and this is something that's affected Arsenal, and probably we've been guilty of it ourselves. I'm not saying it's all one way, but I get very frustrated watching football where you just see players just give away needless fouls, commit needless acts like that, just because they're under threat of. To me, that's worse for the game.
Yeah, there was an article
so they
where
should be punished.
There was an article that says sin bins work in rugby because there's a higher quantity of players and the sport is designed that you can continue with 14 players without it completely ruining the game. And there is some facts in that, but I'm with Ryan on this one. I don't know. Listen, I'm not against the idea of sin bins, but let's get it right first. You trust these lot. Right, that referee that gave that handball the other night, right, against Newcastle, you trust him with sin bins? There'll be nobody left on the bloody pitch.
No, but the thing is as well, Ryan, right? The thing is as well, Ryan, teams will have to be careful. You think about it, if sin bins are introduced, which I hope they are, by the way, and you've got teams that give away silly fouls and you get them crowded around the refs and then they get a couple of players sent to the sin bins, that will likely cost them in the game. So if you think about it, because they don't want to be punished in that way, that might get the players to behave themselves.
My counteract
you know
to that
what I mean?
is that the Premier League is so technical now. You've got a lot of technology and money infiltrated into the game now. And for me, listen, sin bins wouldn't be an overall bad idea, I think, in the long term. But I just think for now, the only good thing I could say from sin bins is that it will stop and reduce like the descent of referees getting abused, players improving their behaviour on and off the field, conducting them and applying themselves in the right way. And with the diving aspect, I think if a player gets I watched the PSG game Tuesday night against Newcastle, where Newcastle robbed for me, but I'm glad they had a bit of the taste of their own medicine when we went down there. But with that game, I looked at Kylian Mbappe was through on goal. And all he had to do is just literally take another touch because Trippier was going to commit the foul anyway. But before he even does that, his body, he's already just thinking about going down to the floor. The referee didn't give him a yellow card or nothing. So it's the inconsistencies of that of where I'll be worried that these referees wouldn't be able to stamp their authority on getting this sin bins right for everyone.
No, you're right. You're right to raise the concerns. All I'm saying is No, what I'm saying is you are right to raise those concerns as Robbie did. I do get that 100%. However, I don't think that should allow something like sin bins to be introduced because I do think that there's a greater good. If you have the sin bins in, I think it will bring more goods than bad.
Okay, listen, Ryan, thank you very much for your call. Appreciate it.
Nice
take care. EM says tactical foul is part of the game. Well, you see, that's what I'm saying, EM. This is where I do think the sin bin thing.
When was that?
I think it ain't part of it. Let's be real here, right?
It's cheating.
It's cheating. It is part of the game, and we do call it tactical fouls and that, but it's cheating.
It's cheating for sure. How many times have we seen where, especially a speed like Martinelli's looking to break? It happened to him the other day, didn't it? The game we were watching the other day. A couple of times, actually, more than once, where he got away from the defender and they've shamelessly dragged the guy down when he could have been bearing down on goal, either got a goal, got an assist or whatever. And then he's just been hacked down needlessly, slows up the flow, cheating, and it should be punished.
Yeah, well, I think we've got a Javi. How you doing, bro?
Yeah, very good to see you both. Good to see you again. And
yeah,
man,
respect.
I don't think we've had a chance to speak face to face since New York. I remember the last time you came on FANZONE, man.
Yeah, I'll tell you, I love your house, man. When I
was just thinking that. It's very palatial.
Look at the house. Yeah,
it's very palatial.
Listen, man.
Fit for a king. As we say,
great house, no good Wi-Fi ain't very good there, though. You know what I mean?
That was the problem, man. It's probably surrounded.
We get it back on.
We get Javi back on in a minute. Acres of land. You know what I mean? So the Wi-Fi.
We're getting back on, but I think we've got Maz.
This is bound to be a good call, actually.
How you doing, Maz?
How you doing, man?
Mans.
Sorry. How you doing?
Doing well. How are you?
Yeah, very good. Sin bins, are you for or against?
Against.
Why?
Okay, articulate.
Listen, I didn't even know about this whole sin bins thing, and then I saw that there's a discussion going on AFTV, and I was like, oh, what's the topic gonna be today? And are you for sin bins? I had to go and research what that was. So what's a sin bin?
It's for real, man. It's for real.
And then, then apparently that's what happens in NHL, for example, when you send somebody off for like a certain amount of time, and then you bring them back on.
Yeah.
And you do the same.
So
in rugby,
it's what they call a temporary dismissal of 10 minutes, and it's given when a player. In football, what they're looking to do is to introduce it for things like tactical fouls or dissent.
Americanize the sport.
Yeah. Well, I don't know, man. For me, it works. I mean, I've seen it in rugby. I don't know if you watch a lot of rugby. It works well in that sport.
Then 2 years later, they'll be saying, let's not have no relegation. You know?
They tried that already.
Yeah, they have tried that.
They already tried that
with the Super League.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm against it completely. First of all, I think the technology we have right now, we still have not got that right. And I'm with Robbie when he says, "Would you trust that referee from the Newcastle?"
This seems to be a common theme. It seems to be a common theme. A lot of people say.
Do you know what you were talking about? You were talking about tactical fouls just now, right?
Yeah.
See, I don't have a problem with that. Even though I'm an Arsenal fan and we dominate most teams regarding possession, you know, we try to bring the game, we try to be progressive, and we try to bring the game forward. There is ways to deal with that without sin bins.
Okay.
So give players that deliberately foul, without trying to get the ball, nothing. Give them yellow cards straight away, and then do that again if they do it again. They won't do it again.
No, but that's what. No, but hold on, man's right. That's why they're talking about bringing it in, because the thing is, it's not really an adequate punishment. And if a player's, if you deliberately, there's a foul where you're a bit late and you've taken a player out and that, right? But if you deliberately haul back somebody or stop them because they're off and they're going to get in a dangerous situation, right?
Yeah, but what teams will do as well, man, is that they'll share the yellow cards around. It then becomes, if you notice that what they will do, one guy gets a yellow card.
Yeah, Atletico Madrid do that a lot, yeah.
So say I'm on the same team as Robbie, I commit the first one, then Robbie does the second one, then another player off the team does the third. And it's very cynical the way they do that. It needs to be punished.
Listen to what I'm saying here now, right? If I could trust the referees to do it, and I'm agreeing with Mans on this, maybe we bring it in. But one of the things I look at and I think, I've read where they're saying that they feel that what would happen, it would prevent a lot of things. So it would prevent a lot of cynical fouls. It would prevent a lot of dissent.
It'd certainly slow it down.
And I actually feel that that's actually true, because I've seen one law change just come in this season, Mans, yeah? And I don't know if you agree with me on this one, right? And I think this has been an excellent thing that they brought in the Premier League, which is basically when you go down and you're injured, if you then have to call on the medical team to come and look at you, you then have to go off the pitch for 30 seconds. Yeah?
Yeah.
And I've seen it at games, right? So many players, when they go down, when the referee goes over to them and says, right, do you want me to call on the medical team? They're like, no, I'm all right. Those are a miraculous recovery, because they know they're going to be off for 30 seconds, right? And I think that's been an excellent thing that they brought in this season into the Premier League. So when you think about it, it's preventing a lot of time wasting, because I remember Newcastle coming to the Emirates last year, and the amount, like literally they shared it around. One player would go down, he's dead. The physios would have to come on. They take ages to see if he was all right. Then he'd come off. Then another one. And it's cut that out. So there is a thing to say that the sin bin stuff would prevent a lot of things as well. But I can't trust these guys. That's the only thing.
Can I ask you a question that will hopefully demonstrate my point? Couple of years ago, Man City played Atletico Madrid in the Champions League. It was one of the scrappiest games you'll ever see in football. Both of them, actually. But the return leg, where it was 0-0 and Man City went through, was even more scrappy, because it was, I think they've calculated the actual football took place for about 62 minutes. The rest of it was all Atletico Madrid players stopping the play, all this and that. And on the next day, everywhere where I heard, on Talk Sport, everywhere, everybody was slagging off Atletico, anti-football, holding on to players, dirty, disgusting team. I was thinking in my head, what do you expect them to do? What do you expect them to do? Man City, Arsenal, Liverpool, Man United, these teams can spend a lot of money every transfer window, bring in players they want, accumulate a super squad, fullbacks, strikers, midfielders. They can build a team. Now, with what's going on at Atletico Madrid, Spain, Italy, for example, Serie A, they can't do that. So what do you expect them to do? Of course, they're going to have a manager at some point. Some team is going to have a manager and say, listen, we can't beat them playing football. Can we?
Yeah, but we go to watch football, and we don't go to watch people rolling around for half of the time and engaging in the dark arts all through the game. And if there was to watch
football. Atletico Madrid fans don't go to watch football. Atletico Madrid fans go to see their team win. Well,
listen, I go to see my team win, but I also want to see football as well. I also want to be entertained. For the people who make the laws around the game, they want it to be entertaining. It's a game that does so well because people love watching it on TV all around the world. So it needs to be entertaining. And if it is gonna cut out that sort of stuff, I think you can't argue with it.
I've got a quick question for you, Mans. So would you agree with me then that things like tactical fouls and constant fouling and dissent shown towards referees is a problem that needs to be addressed? I'm pretty sure we'd agree on that, yeah?
I agree.
So it's
a problem that needs to be addressed. Yeah, go ahead.
Right, okay, yeah. So if we establish that as the premise, then something like sin bins, if a team can go down to 10 men, especially in the latter stages of the game, they're probably not going to be so quick to do those kind of things, because if you go down to 10 men, especially in the latter stages of the game when already the players are going to be tired, that could conceivably cost them the game, or certainly going to present a huge problem in terms of them winning if they're numerically disadvantaged. So that's why I think sin bins work, because you've got that threat hanging over you that if you engage in those kind of dark arts, you engage in cursing out the referee at every given moment, then you go down to 10, 9 men. There's a good chance that you're either going to lose that game, or at the very least, your chances of winning it are going to be severely impaired.
Look, I do agree it's a problem that probably needs to be tackled slightly to a certain extent, even despite what I've just said. I do get the point that we do go to watch games, whether we go to watch them or whether we watch them on TV. We want to see as much football as possible.
Absolutely.
I would find an alternative, though. I don't like the idea of these sin bins. I don't like the idea of temporarily sending players off. Because then what are you going to do? Somebody said earlier, you might have a few players being out.
Yeah, well, the simple thing is don't engage in tactical fouls and stop cursing out referees. And
okay, right. Okay, Mans, listen, thank you very much for your call.
Thanks,
really appreciate it.
Yeah.
Just wanted to read, great contributor, Mans. I just wanted to read this quote. This was from Sean Deitch, who says, I don't know why they don't leave the game alone at sometimes. I don't think it's needed. I don't think it's wanted personally, but fans have different view. How are you going to manage it? If a player goes off the pitch, how are you going to manage that? The health and safety, is he warming up or is he allowed to sit down? Does he have to stay sitting down? Does he get 2 minutes out of the 10 to warm up again? I'm serious, this is how the world has gone. It's an odd thing to consider, but if it's brought in, then that's the way it goes. So Sean Dyche is definitely not a fan, maybe because he is a guy that can...
I was going to say, maybe he's one of those managers that encourages teams to flout the rules. Listen, I'm not saying that 100%. That's just my initial response. However, what I would say is, listen, man, with dissent in the game, I think most right-minded thinking fans will agree, it's a big problem in the game, and it's not been slowed down. We had this rule at the start of the season where they said only the captain can approach the ref. But we've all seen games where that doesn't happen. 4, 5, 6 players around the ref. It's just not good enough. Tactical fouls.
I think we've got Javi back.
Okay, yeah, in his palatial splendor.
Yeah. Sorry about that, guys. Just some of these spam calls, man, they're ridiculous. I have to block the number.
Okay.
But we wanted to discuss your house. You know what I mean? Because,
the architecture. Yeah, very. I feel like it's my big fat Greek wedding. Got that whole thing going on. But
it's beautiful. It's beautiful. But what's your views on sin bins?
You know what? I'm against it because I don't think the application of it would work well due to incompetence. But in terms of what it could present
in principle,
to the sport as a whole, Yeah. What it could present to the sport as well, I think, is very interesting, because I actually think it would bring some more of that nitty gritty, argy-bargy kind of thing that we've seen, and that's sort of been slowly phased out of the game. If I'm telling you something under my breath and I, give you a push, and then VAR slows it down in slow motion and it looks like I almost murdered you, then of course I'm going to get sent off. But if you just say, all right, both of you, 4 or 5 minutes for instigating, and I think it'll bring.
It's 10 minutes. 10 minutes. 10 minutes.
10 minutes.
That's a bit much. That's a bit much. 10 minutes.
No, but I think 10 minutes is fine. You know why? Because as I said before, Javi, I think teams will be cognizant not to flout the rules, because if you, especially in a tight game, and you go down to 10 men, that could be it. That could cost you that game, or at the very least, it could prevent you from winning, because tactically you're going to have to switch.
Yeah, but Laurie, I think there's also an argument that the game's gotten very soft in fear of making those mistakes. I'm interested in the idea of sin bins, because I'm thinking about what new tactical formations we can see. How can it affect the game? Like, if I know you're going to be down to 10 men for the next, let's say, 10 minutes, all right, maybe I'm going to put an extra attacker on there. I think that could be interesting from a tactical perspective. Or let's say a team like Everton that plays a very, very low block, if they know they're going to have an extra man for the next 10 minutes, maybe they'll employ a different kind of tactic where they want to be the ones on the ball.
Go deeper.
You'll see more ebb and flows. Yeah. So that's where I see, because it could be interesting. But I just think there's too much incompetence right now, especially in England, with how, you can't even use technology correctly. It's ridiculous.
That's true.
And something as simple as like the handball rule. I've seen in a single season the handball rule being changed 4 or 5 times. Yeah. This has existed since the game was initially founded. You can't even figure out a consistent handball rule that can last at least a whole entire season. You're trying to bring in sin bins now? That's
I think
you make
the solution is to move in together. Like, no, my love, let's focus on the other things first.
You make a great point. You make great points there, and that's exactly what I'm saying. These lot can't do. They can't. Like,
that seems to be a recurring theme.
They can't even do what they've got to do with now. What are we going to give them more on top? El Nikos says another factor is the increased injury risk. Players coming off for 10 minutes, cooling down, and then being thrown back into a high intensity game.
What my answer to that is? Don't get the sin bin in the first.
And here's another one. It's just disappeared from me now.
If you don't get the sin bin, you ain't got to worry about that, have you? That's the thing. So,
all right, here's this one coming from Kivo. I'm going to put it to you, Laurie, and to you, Javi, as well, as to how you think the sin bins would deal with this. Kivo says, so Robbie, how does this affect goalies?
Well,
so he says, what if a goalie shows a bit of dissent? What, do you send him to the sin bin for 10 minutes?
Yes. Listen, they've got goalkeepers as substitutes. You can bring on a substitute goalkeeper.
No, but you remember, if a sin binned, you can't bring a substitute on, or you'll have to bring on a goalkeeper and take a player off.
Exactly, yeah. So they can get around it that way. And listen, my simple, flat response to that is, don't get the sin bin.
Yeah, but Laurie,
it's as simple as that.
But Laurie, that's like, if you're going to implement something, okay, and it's supposed to be in the form of a punishment, and the best way to avoid all the potential complexities that come with it is just don't get it in the first place. It's got to serve a purpose that improves the overall flow of the game. And listen, tactical fouls, yes, they're an issue, but they're also equalizers. This is a part of, they're called tactical fouls for a reason. It is a tactic. And listen, I don't like, and I would hate if Arsenal Football Club was like Atletico Madrid, where we're sitting back for 90 minutes and just kicking the absolute limbs out of people. But those are equalizers in some cases. Yes, it's boring for the fans, but at the same time, it's up to that individual fan base to demand entertaining football and to want more from their players. You think a club like Barcelona that used to seeing Pep Guardiola's team flying high, you think they're happy when they win a game 1-0? No, they expect to win. They want to be entertained as well. But that kind of football, as annoying as it may be, it is part of the game. It has as well.
Yeah. Listen, I've got no big issue about low blocks. And listen, a lot of teams deploy that tactic against us. And the way I always look at that is it's up to us.
Yeah.
Basically, when a team does that to you, they're basically giving you the compliment that you are the better footballing team. So you have to try and break us down. I accept that dynamic. So teams have to be a bit more creative. A bit like when we're saying with Arsenal, when we've struggled with teams that play low blocks in the past. But I always say it's up to us to come up with, you got the better players, you got the better players, the better personnel, managers, etc., etc. It's up to you to come up with a system to get around that. So
Do you know what, Javi, just going slightly off the topic of what we're talking now, right? I need to ask you this. It's something that we've been debating a lot today, and I know that you're always brilliant on breaking down tactics. Why is it that in the Champions League, Arsenal are so fluent, scoring goals for fun, 5 goals by half-time yesterday, but in the Premier League, we've been struggling to score goals? Why is that?
I think it's because in Champions League, teams understand they need to get as many points as possible, so they actually come and try to take the game to us. While as in the Premier League, even some of the low sides that we play against, goal difference could actually be the difference between whether or not they're relegated. So sometimes for them, it's just like, well, we can get a point here, great, but if we can keep the score low, that could actually be a difference maker between a £200 million, transfer to our bank accounts come the end of the season, or whether or not we're going to have to get descended. So it presents different tactical complexities.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you.
I would agree with that. There are nuances to both the Champions League and the Premier League that make it very different. But listen, bro, thanks for your call.
Thank you very much, Javi, man. It's always a pleasure.
Before I go, just want to say, I think that let's try to create a handball rule that can actually last for 2-3 seasons. Let's actually create a challenge system so that way VAR doesn't intervene unnecessarily. And if we adopted technology in VAR, which was already used in many other sports, let's learn how they implement it instead of being so arrogant and trying to go through the growing pains and the issues. But we don't need to reinvent the wheel. Let's look at how other sports do it. Let's perfect what we're going on. And then once we perfect it, we can then see how we can improve the sport. But let's focus on what we got right now.
I've got a question to you, and I've got a question to you too. What is handball now? What's handball? I want to know. What is a handball? What is handball? I used to know what handball is. Now I don't know. No. Natural position, unnatural. What's handball?
Deliberate, not deliberate. Yeah, it's
deliberate, not deliberate. What's handball?
It's a minefield.
What is it, Javi? What's handball?
I mean, I know what I think handball should be, but it goes game by game. I mean, it changes all the time. I mean, that's ridiculous. That alone tells you the problem. If you can't even figure out handball is probably that was the. One day, 2 guys got together at a park and they said, hey, look, there's a ball, man. Let's kick it with our feet. By the way, you can't touch it with your hand. That was probably the very first rule ever created. And we still can't even figure out.
And we still can't get it right.
And now we're talking about sin bins. Come on, less of that.
Exactly. There was a guy called William Webb. He picked up the ball and just started running the end of the pitch. And rugby was born.
Yeah, and that wasn't even handball, probably. Javi, thank you very much.
The only sin bin that I know of right now is at a Catholic church when you say, forgive me, Father, for I have sinned, and you do your confessions. Let's leave it there for now.
Thank you, Javi. Thank you, Javi.
Yeah,
We've got about 10 minutes left, right, of this stream. Laurie, I think, and Brandon B. Talking says, stop overcomplicating stuff. It's not needed. He's on the sin bins with a super chat. Thank you very much for that.
Seems like no one's in favour.
Well, we've had a poll. A sin bin's a good idea. 39% say yes, 61% say no. But what I thought I'd do, we got about 8 minutes left of the show. I thought I'd just throw this into the mix. Just a bit of fun debate here, right?
Okay. We all like a bit of fun.
Let's all laugh at Manchester United, right? And Andre and Nana. That's what I thought we'd do, right? Because Man United fans were laughing the other day at David Raya and at Ramsdale and the whole situation. They're telling me how great this goalkeeper is, how good he is with his feet. But what they forgot is that when you're in goal, you've also got to use your hands. And he's not very good at that. I mean, did you see that last night?
It's a shocker.
Can we get any Man United fans out there to come on and explain to us how is Onana a decent keeper? Because he's terrible, isn't he?
I was talking to somebody the other day and we were both making this point, and I'll be interested to hear what you think, is that in many ways, the whole goalkeeping narrative has shifted. Back in the day, if you were a good goalkeeper, it meant just keeping the ball out by any means necessary. Yeah? That was the definition of a good keeper. Shot stopping, commanding your goal, coming out for crosses, blah, blah, blah. Okay, we've seen it, Barcelona and Pep teams, and it's been introduced over here via Pep as well at Man City, with players playing the ball, goalkeepers playing out from the back and stuff. But I hate to use the term old school, but I'm going to use it. I always think that a goalkeeper's first and foremost job is to keep the ball out from the net. Yeah,
I agree.
because at the end of the day, goals win games.
That's not old school. That's the art of goalkeeping.
Yeah. But
right
nowadays, the narrative seems to be that if you can play a little bit out with the ball at your feet as a goalkeeper, you are preferred to a keeper that is better at keeping the ball out the back of the net. And surely that's the wrong way around.
Anana seems like he'd rather be playing out on the pitch than, because honestly...
Maybe they should try him out there. But yeah, seriously, I just think that the whole narrative now is changing. And yes, it is good to see keepers who can control the ball, distribute the ball well with their feet and, the rest of it. Yeah, that's great. But I'm saying, first and foremost, your job description is to keep the ball out the back of the net. Goalkeeper, the clue is in the name, isn't it?
You're right. It's almost like a goalkeeper. Modern day goalkeepers like almost got two roles. It's almost like you're a sweeper, right? So you're playing at the back. So you look at teams in particular that play a high line. Look at the goalkeeper's positioning when those players are up the pitch. He's expected to almost mop up. Yeah. If a ball's played over the top and stuff like that. So he's got to be good at doing that. He's got to have a lot of awareness to come out. I mean, once upon a time, when we first started watching football, a goalkeeper never came out of his box.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? But now these keepers, their positioning is always out of their box. When the team's on the ball, when they lose the ball, they get back in their box. So they're sweeper keepers, as they say. It is now a big part of goalkeeping. You've got to be good with the ball at your feet. You've got to be good at distribution. You've got to be good at coming out and judging and knowing when to clear balls.
And do you know when this
and you're a person who starts attacks.
Yeah.
Goalkeepers, their passing and that starts. I mean, Alisson, I think, is brilliant at it. So is Edison. They're brilliant at starting attacks with their passing. That's all part of the game now. It's no longer just, pulling off a great diving save.
And dare I say it, that was necessitated by the rule change which stopped players from passing the ball back to the keeper. Yeah?
Yeah, because they used to be able to pick it up.
That's right. So out of that was born this whole thing about keepers starting attacks and distributing the ball with their feet and so forth. But listen, man, I think that as much as that is welcomed, I also think that is secondary to your main job, which is keeping the ball out the back of the net. And I think it's becoming far too blurred now. You're actually getting keepers that are no good at it, and they keep trying it over and over, and they come unstuck.
Is Anana a good goalkeeper for you?
Well, on what we're seeing at the moment, we'd have to say he's not very good. No, I mean, listen, I'm sure he is a good keeper. Because he had a very good reputation at Ajax. He's an international keeper as well, of some renown. However, in the Premier League, what we've seen at Man United, I have to say, he's not been very good.
Honestly, man, I mean...
that being said, though, I have seen him also make some very good
47
saves.
But then the stats tell us, as you was telling me earlier, the stats tell us that he's got the most clean sheets in the Premier League.
Well, some stats.
Well, you used stats earlier. I mean,
no, the stats I was referring to was from the grassroots survey following the introduction of sin bins at grassroots football.
Anana's,
listen, I'm sure there's a keeper in there. Let's be honest. He wouldn't have got this far if he wasn't a good keeper. He's going through a really bad patch at the moment. Obviously, his confidence is low, and he's going to need the support of his manager and teammates. But he's got a lot of work to do.
Definitely got a lot of work to do. And Raya last night had a good game. Do you think from now till the end of the season, that's it now for Ramsdale?
Listen, to me, I've been saying it on watch-alongs and various other shows and formats I've been in on AFTV. It's very clear to me that the manager prefers Raya. Raya is his long-term number one option, and the reason for that is that if you look at it from a goalkeeping perspective in terms of shot stopping and all the rest of it, there's very little difference in my view between Raya and Ramsdale. You could make a case. In fact, some people, if you say to me Ramsdale was a slightly better keeper in terms of shot stopping and preventing goals, I could see that. However, the manager has a vision of where he wants to play, and I think Raya suits that better because he is infinitely better with the ball at his feet than Ramsdale is. So.
Okay, going back on the sin bins thing, Game Fanatic said I'd be happy if they trial sin bins.
We got
just dissent at first. It's something that's unnecessary in the first place and not needed in the game. So he sort of he trial it with dissent, but he's not really feeling it. And I think, as I said, that poll that we've did, 461 of you voted, 61% of you are saying no, thank you, no more sin bins. And I just don't think we're ready for that right now. Forget that right now.
But it's interesting, though, in your rebuttal of sin bins, and I would say all the callers we've had, all of them have said pretty much that it's not so much they've got a problem in principle with sin bins. The problem that they have with it is how it's going to be administered by the refs. So that tells me that it is a good idea, but people have reservations about the way it's going to be handled on the pitch, which is a shame.
Well, so we don't need that right now. I think we've got enough problems as it is.
I'd love to see it.
And if anybody out there knows what a handball is, please write to us here at AFTV and let us know. I mean, I ain't got a clue. Listen, thank you very much. We've reached the hour
Good
mark
debate.
of the show. It's flown past. Really, really enjoyed it today. Don't forget, coming up on Saturday, we've got the game. Arsenal taking on Wolverhampton Wanderers at the Emirates Stadium. Remember to check out all of our previews that we've got coming out tomorrow. We've got a box-to-box coming out as well with a Wolves fan. So make sure you check that out. And of course, on Saturday at 3 p.m. UK time, that is when the game is going to take place. We've got a watch-along going on. We've got our starting 11. And afterwards, FANZONE. Your chance to get involved with us here on AFTV. If you haven't already done so, download the app AFTV Plus on your phone. It's available on Apple and on Android or all of those. And it's really, really easy to use. All you got to do is just press the button on it and it takes you through to our virtual green room where you will then be put onto the show to talk to us. It's an absolutely brilliant tool. So make sure you get involved in the show. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Laurie.
No worries, man. It's been a pleasure. I've really enjoyed it, actually.
Yeah,
I know that it never went my way in terms of numbers, people supporting, but have a think about it, man, because seriously, I've thought about this a lot, and I do think that it will be a force for good. So, reconsider. If you got your reservations, reconsider, and I think you'll come around to my way of thinking.
Nah. Thank you very much. I will see you tomorrow.